wanted to make a video that would be helpful to new homeschoolers as well as to homeschoolers that kind of started up during the pandemic and didn't know a lot about homeschooling but really wanted to keep their kids home for whatever their reasons were and give it a try. It is difficult to start off homeschooling and not have, there can be a lot of information out there and it can be really confusing to new homeschoolers. So if you are new to homeschooling, or if you've been homeschooling for a little while and you haven't really given much thought as to what kind of homeschool you want to have, this is the video for you. Follow along. Have you heard homeschoolers say, "What's your style of homeschooling?" or "What kind of style of homeschooling does your child prefer or you as the teacher prefer?" And you're not even sure or had no idea that there were styles or models of homeschooling. Just the other day I was at a park and I met up with a mom who wanted to meet some homeschooling parents because she really has thought she wants to start homeschooling her child, but she has no idea what it's all about, where to start. And she was really surprised to hear that there are styles of homeschooling. So if that is you, I wanted to present a style to you and a book to you that is my most favorite homeschooling book ever. It was so extremely helpful to me in just getting my mind wrapped around what is homeschooling and what is an approach to homeschooling. There are many approaches out there. This is the one that I chose and I want to share it with you. So this is the book right here. It's The Well-Trained Mind by Susan Bauer, as well as her daughter, Jessie. And it says it's a guide to classical education at home. Now, it is a classical model of homeschooling, which a lot of people are a little bit afraid of, but you don't necessarily have to be a technical, classical homeschooler to follow this book. In this book, she gives so much information about homeschooling, and it's not that you need to be rigid and stick to a particular model, but she gives a lot of rationale for all of the subjects and gives her picks for all the best curriculum in terms of cost, in terms of approach, and then she also gives different types of curriculum based on the child's needs. So she goes through the type of your child you might have, and this might be the best approach to teach your child. So it's a huge, thick book. You don't have to read it all. She goes by ages and grades, so you can just flip to the section for the grade that you're looking for. I like to even look ahead into the high school years just to see if I'm in the right direction in terms of curriculum to achieve the goals that we want to achieve in our homeschool. But it is an amazing book. There's a lot of great homeschool books out there that might help you to just kind of be more of a better parent. And there's a lot of things that kind of are more for encouragement, but this one is just a wonderful how-to guide that just gets straight to the meat and potatoes of homeschooling, and I found it extremely helpful, and I think it's a must-read for every homeschool, whether you are a classical model of classical homeschool or not. So I just want to add a little side note here that there is a lot of information in this book, but right at the very beginning of the book, she says that it's a rare parent who will follow this program exactly. The freedom to tailor an academic program to your child's particular interests and needs, strengths and struggles is one of home education's greatest advantages. We've explained a general philosophy that governs each part of the curriculum, but our specific schedules, texts, and programs are just illustrations of how to put this philosophy into practice. She also says, you can follow one part of the program, but not another. No student will do all the work that we suggest, especially in the early grades when learning to read, write, and understand math. Now, one thing that I really appreciate about the classical approach is that it focuses on the early years, and that there's a big difference in this approach compared to a lot of other education approaches, such as is most often the case at public schools. It says that in the early years, there is a lot of emphasis on there's a lot of emphasis on self-expression, on guiding children to express themselves in their own and unique way. But it says that we need to be cautious that self-expression does not push the accumulation of knowledge off stage and then causes an out of balance. Their children are actually, I won't read the whole book to you. I want this to be a somewhat shorter video and that you go out and get the book for yourself and sift through it and take what you like and throw away what you don't. But she calls it the parroting years. Children aren't actually creating or being unique or expressing themselves in a unique way. They're parroting back what they're seeing around them in others, in nature, in TV, in movies, in books. And so that it isn't really a self-expression as opposed to expressing what they see. So you'll find in a lot of her early year curriculum suggestions that they are curriculum that are not about self-expression and more about filling their mind with as much knowledge as possible. But I really want to quickly just move on and talk about how her focus on each subject and what she does in this book. So first of all, she says this when it comes to the language arts, which would be spelling, grammar, reading, and writing. She says that first 4 years of formal education are called the grammar stage because students spend that time learning the conventions of basic facts, the grammar of each academic subject. In a way, the grammar of language is the foundation on which all other subjects rest. Until a student reads without difficulty, he can't absorb the grammar of history, literature, or science. Until a student writes with ease, he can't express his growing mastery of the material. And so there is a focus on building up that foundation in the early years, particularly in the language arts program of reading, writing, spelling, and grammar. So what she does is she goes through how to teach reading, how to teach writing, spelling, and grammar. And then afterwards, she goes through all of her curriculum picks, listing the ones and how each student with their own personal learning styles would do best with each type of curriculum. Now, she suggests her own, but she also suggests a whole entire list of other curriculum that are not part of the well-trained mind. So she's not biased and she doesn't say get mine, mine's the best. In fact, hers is not necessarily the best for each child, for each student. We use a lot of her curriculum, but we don't use all of her curriculum. And she's very open and honest about what's great about hers and what's great about others and what works best for all children learn in different ways. She also goes into great detail about choosing a math curriculum. She talks about the procedural versus conceptual types of teaching math. And now she does express that the conceptual type of math benefits a child the best in the future in being able to understand the why and not just the what of math. But she does also express that some children do well with procedural math and just memorizing basic steps and going through the motions of the math. But she does explain all of those things, and at the end she does list a whole bunch of different curriculum for math that is good for all different ways that children do best in learning. And she also lists all the different types of manipulatives that she suggests are the best for learning math, and so on. She also goes through history and geography and expresses ways that you can do it with living books, which is a Charlotte Mason approach as well as the well-trained mind and a neoclassical approach to learning. She goes through how we should cycle through the ancients, to the Middle Ages, to pre-modern and postmodern history. And you cycle through that from grades 1 to 4 and cycle through it again through grades 5 to 8 and cycle it again from grades 9 through 12. And by the time you get to the end of grade 12, you've gone through ancient, Middle Ages, pre-modern, postmodern 3 times, and you really sink deeper and deeper into the history, the what, the why, the how, and start to begin to think through and logically understand how humankind has progressed through the years and how we really kind of repeat ourselves in a lot of ways, and maybe how we can even improve over time. But it's really, she goes through that. She offers different curriculum as well. She does say that it's great to use a spine, so to get a curriculum spine as your basis to go through, and then really suggests lots of additional living books and readings that you can buy, pick up at the library, things like that, that really makes it accessible. It has a whole reading list of things to look at. Sometimes we don't know where to get these reading lists from, but she includes all of that in her book, and so it's just amazing. She talks about science. So again, she doesn't suggest a specific science curriculum per se. You could do it completely on your own, and she tells you exactly how to do it. She goes through the types of sciences and gives suggestions over how you can do them in the early years, the middle school times, and high school, and how to cycle through the types of sciences, the life sciences to the physical sciences and so forth. And she talks about using living books as well, but she also suggests spines that you can pick up and then go out and get living books along with it to add to your learning. She also suggests how to learn Latin. Now, Latin is something that is very specific to the classical model of homeschooling. It's not necessary. I think learning other languages is wonderful because it really helps child development and learning, being able to memorize another language. When they're young, they're able to do it. And so some people choose to use a practical language. Latin is wonderful because it really helps you understand the root words to everything. And when you understand a language, you will understand reading and writing that much better. It will help you understand sciences and all those things. But she goes through that. She goes through learning logic. Logic just in general as a curriculum is a really wonderful exercise in helping children think through logically, basically. But she goes through different books and suggestions. She goes through living arts and all of these things, but all of this is all in one big book that is just amazing. I suggest that any homeschool can benefit a lot from this. I know a lot of homeschool moms say, I don't know how to teach. I don't know, what, you just pick up a book of math and then now what do I do? And so she really goes through all of those steps in very clear and precise ways that it takes a while to kind of read through it and absorb it. And I've highlighted and underlined and all the rest. And I go back over it because this is my guide. This is my homeschooling Bible. And I really highly recommend this book to every homeschooler. It is so helpful. And she gives you, she's been homeschooling for many, many years. Her grown-up adult daughter, she homeschooled all of her children. She's a homeschooling parent as well. And so they have several generations of homeschooling that they've tried these curriculums that have stood the test of time. And she knows which ones work, which ones don't. And cost is also a factor for her as well because homeschooling can be very expensive. But I hope that you take a look at it. I hope that you found this video helpful. Please comment below if you have any questions, if you want to ask specific questions about what else is in the book and what suggestions she's made, because I can help answer those questions as well. I thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.